Alright. Today, we'll start with exploring the job roles in the world of data. Now, in the world of data, there is a lot of managing, controlling, and using data. We have different roles, each uh, has its own job, has its own tasks to do. We have three key job roles. Database administrators, data engineers, and data analysts. Database administrators manage databases, assigning permissions to users, storing backup copies of data, and restoring data in the event of a failure. Basically, making backups of data, restoring data, managing, and assigning managing the databases and assigning permissions to different users. Data engineers manage infrastructure and processes for data integration across the organization, applying data cleaning routines, identifying data governance rules, and implementing pipelines to transfer and transform data between systems. So basically, data engineers engineer data in a simple way. Like they manage the infrastructure, they process the data, they clean the data, they they identify data governance rules, and they implement pipelines to transform data from one shape to another. Data analysts explore and analyze data to create visualizations and charts that enable organizations to make informed decisions. Basically, data analysts analyze data and figure out some information that's not easily comprehended unless data is analyzed and presented in a proper way to be read. We have a note here: the job roles define differentiated tasks and responsibilities. In some organizations, the same person might perform multiple roles. So, in their role as database administrator, they might provision a transactional database, and then in their role as a data engineer, they might create a pipeline to transfer data from the database to a data warehouse for analysis. So, basically, it's saying here that these are not like guidelines, strict guidelines. It's their general guidelines. A data engineer can analyze data and can store backups. A data administrator can transform data. An analyst can clean data and process the data. So basically, it's just these three are general guidelines. They're not strict guidelines. That a database can do the job of a data engineer at some places. Some places a person might do all three jobs at once. Okay, let's talk more about the database administrator. A database administrator is responsible for the design, implementation, maintenance, and operational aspects of on-premises and cloud-based database systems. They're responsible for the overall availability and consistent performance and optimizations of databases. They work with stakeholders to implement policies, tools, and processes for backup and recovery plans to recover following a natural disaster or human-made error. So, a database administrator designs, implements, maintains, and operates aspects of on-premises and cloud-based database systems. The database administrator will operate the cloud-based systems or on-premise systems. They're responsible for the overall availability and consistent performance optimizations of the databases. If something goes wrong with the database administrator is the one responsible for it, and he is supposed to optimize the database. They work with stakeholders to implement policies, tools, and processes for backup and recovery plans to recover following a natural disaster or a human-made error. So the stakeholders, they implement policies, they make tools, they processes for backup. Backups are usually based on very specific, very specific processes. For example, 12 hours or every 30 days, certain types of backups are made, and recovery plans in case they want to recover the data. The database administrator is also responsible for managing the security of the data in the database. He is also responsible for the security, granting privileges over the data, giving perms to certain users, granting or denying access to users as appropriate. A certain user shouldn't, for example, delete data. He would pull out the permission to delete data from a database from that specific user. The data engineer. A data engineer collaborates with stakeholders to design and implement data-related workloads, including data ingestion pipelines, cleansing and transformation activities, and data stores for analytical workloads. Basically, the data engineer contacts the stakeholders. The stakeholders they together they design and implement data-related workloads, including data ingestion pipelines. They make pipelines for the data, and cleansing, they clean the data, and transformation activities to change the shapes of the data. And data stores for analytical workloads, how the data is stored. They use a wide range of data platform technologies, including relational and non-relational databases, file stores, and data streams. Uh, they use several platform technologies. Non-relational data, they're not strict to one type of databases. They also use file stores and data streams to move the data. They're also responsible for ensuring that the privacy of the data is maintained. The data should be private within the cloud and spanning from on-premises on the cloud data stores to the cloud data stores. Sometimes the data engineer would transfer the data from the on-premise and to the cloud. A lot of companies nowadays are moving from on-premise servers to cloud services. They own the management and monitoring of data pipelines to ensure that data loads perform as expected. Basically, they manage and monitor the data pipelines to make sure that data is transforming as they should. Lastly but not least, data analyst. What does a data analyst do? A data analyst enables businesses to maximize the value of their data assets. Data in its raw form can have a lot of information that can be used. That's where a data analyst comes from. It's like raw ore. You can't really use raw ore unless you start working with it and heating it to get the ore itself, which is really expensive sometimes. But the raw kind of it can be kind of useless. You can't really do anything with it unless you work on it and process it. The same goes for data analysts. They're dealing with raw data. They're trying to transform raw data to gold. They're responsible for exploring data to identify trends and relationships. Data can show relationships between different aspects. For example, we all know in Christmas during the end of the year, sales increase, for example, in Amazon. How do we know that? We can show that the amounts of sales are increasing in December exactly. That's a form of data analysis, you could say. Designing and building analytical models and enabling advanced analytical capabilities through reports and visualizations. Now, uh, okay, the analyst analyzes the data. What else is he supposed to do? He's supposed to report and visualize so others can understand what he's talking about. A data analyst processes raw data into relevant insights based on identified business requirements to deliver relevant insights. Some analysts have a goal in mind before they even start working because the business requirements they're looking for something specific. Other analysts would just be kind of randomly working around it until they figure it out. The roles described here represent the key data related roles found in most medium to large organizations. There are additional data related roles not mentioned here, such as data scientist and data architect, And there are other technical professionals that work with data, including application developers and software engineers. So basically, it's saying that not all roles are specified here. There are other things called data scientists, data architect, application developers, and software engineers. Thanks for watching.